everyone. We're happy you can join us. This is a joint press conference hosted by Coloradans for the Common Good and UFCW Local 7. We're glad that if everyone could please mute until we call you, that would be great. So my name is Marilyn Winokur, and I'm co-chair of Coloradans for the Common Good. CCG is a broad-based, nonpartisan organization with 25 member institutions in the Front Range, including congregations of various faith traditions, labor unions such as the UFCW Local 7 and the Colorado Education Association, and civic organizations such as the NAACP and Good Business Colorado. Our purpose is to build sustainable relational power to bring about the change we want to see in our communities and to make democracy work. As a nonpartisan organization, we do not endorse candidates, but we do work on initiatives that are important to our members. Leaders of CCG are here today out of our concern for grocery store workers, who are essential workers and have been a particular risk during this pandemic. We believe we need to do everything in our power to help and protect them and our communities while they continue to work. On December 3rd, CCG wrote letters to Steve Burnham, president of King Soopers, and Todd Broderick, president of Safeway Albertsons, to ask for a meeting to discuss our concerns about our grocery store workers. In both cases, our request for a meeting was declined. We are here today with our partners from UFCW to reiterate our request for a meeting. Today, we will be hearing from King Soopers and Safeway grocery workers, the family of a deceased worker, Congressman Jason Crow from Colorado District 6, and two clergy from Coloradans for the Common Good member congregations. We'd like to begin with Representative Crow. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Marilyn. Really appreciate the introduction and the UFCW Local 7 for organizing this and all the work you do. Listen, my voice is by far not the most important one here. I'm just here to show support for the other folks and for the frontline workers and people that are working day and night to keep this country going. Because if this pandemic has shown us in anything, it's showing us who really makes this country work and who really makes this country run. And it's our grocery store workers, our delivery truck drivers, our janitors, our nurses, our teachers, the American worker who's putting themselves, their lives on the line, their families on the line, to make sure that all the things that sometimes we take for granted get done. And I just can't thank you all enough, but thanks is not enough, right? Thanks is not going to do it. What you don't need is a pat on the back and just a thanks, although you will always have that, right? And you should have that as well. But truly what you need is support. You need hazard pay. You need clean and safe working conditions. You need our community and our lawmakers to step up and to support you in the way that you deserve to be supported because of the work that you have done. Now, you are no stranger to tragedy. Over 400 local grocery store workers have been tested positive with COVID just in the last 9 months. I lost Randy Narvaez, a almost 30-year UFCW grocery store worker this year, and so many others during this battle against the pandemic. And in honor of Randy and all those we've lost and those who are sick, we need to take action. And that's what I'm here to do, to just show my support and more than that, to push for action. I'm in DC right now. I flew to DC last night to push hard and do everything I possibly can to get a stimulus deal, a relief bill, and to push for things like hazard pay so we can support our workers and our working families in this country. And I just won't stop doing that. So thank you for having me here. And thank you to all of those who continue to fight for this issue on the call today.
Thank you so much, Representative Crow. It's great to have your support. Our next speaker will be Melissa McAllister, the political liaison for UFCW Local 7. Melissa.
Good morning. My name is Melissa McAllister, and I'm the political liaison for UFCW Local 7. I want to thank Congressman Crow for joining us and our partners, Coloradans for the Common Good, and of course, Nicole Trujillo, who will forever be part of the Local 7 family. And a most special thanks to our brave essential grocery worker members participating today. You have sacrificed so much to keep the stores open for all of us. Local 7 has 25,000 members, 17,000 of whom are essential grocery workers. We represent members at 2 Kroger chains, King Soopers and City Market, as well as the Safeway Albertsons stores in Colorado and Wyoming. Today, I'll give a brief timeline of events to give context to the serious safety issues our members will discuss today. On March 18th, 2020, as it became clear our members were in danger due to this pandemic, our union asked both Kroger and Safeway Albertsons for hazard pay. On March 19th, the Department of Homeland Security released the guidance memo that deemed all grocery workers as essential. On March 20th, Safeway Albertsons announced hazard pay for all associates who worked during the pandemic of $2 an hour, calling it appreciation pay. Kroger followed suit on March 31st with its aptly named Hero Pay. The bonus recognized the additional work and risks inherent in working at grocery stores in a pandemic. Local 7, as well as UFCW International, thought this was fair and showed our members that these companies valued their sacrifice. Unfortunately, as the pandemic raged on and stores became even more dangerous, both companies stripped workers of this hazard pay. Kroger on May 17th and Safeway Albertsons on June 14th. Since then, we have seen a 735% increase of COVID positive cases amongst our members at Kroger stores and a 1,285% increase at Safeway Albertsons stores. Now, like then, these 2 companies have claimed that their first priority has been the safety of associates and customers during the pandemic. Later, you hear directly from several Local 7 members about their own experiences. Unfortunately, what they share matches what we have been hearing from an overwhelming number of members throughout the state. Before I conclude, I also want to point out that essential grocery workers have not just been let down by their employers, but also by our broken Department of Labor. On July 16th, after 2 of our grocery members from a downtown King Super store in Denver died from contracting the virus at work, and many members fell ill, Local 7 filed an OSHA complaint and grievance with OSHA to investigate the store. During the investigation, OSHA never sent anyone from their team to investigate in person. The irony was not lost on us. The same stores that our members work at every day were too dangerous for government employees to investigate. To add insult to injury, OSHA conducted the investigation virtually, talking to supervisors and never interviewing any employees after our union president offered them. It was not a surprise to us that last week on December 10th, we received a letter from OSHA concluding its farce investigation, citing they were issuing the store a hazard alert letter with no citation. This was an insult to the Kay and Narvaez families who spend their first Christmas without their loved ones. I conclude by saying that Local 7 wants both grocery companies to prosper because that means that our communities have access to food and essential services and our members have jobs. However, we implore both to ensure our members' safety and by extension that of our communities and pay them the hazard pay they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Our next speaker will be Nikki Trujillo, the sister of UFCW Local 7 member Randy Narvaez.
Good morning. I just want to make sure you can hear me. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Trujillo, and known to my brother as Nikki. I lost my brother, Randy Narvaez, a dedicated King Soopers employee for 30 years this past May to COVID-19. He was not just my brother, but he was my fiercest defender and my best friend. He was a wonderful father, a lover of rock and roll music, and the loudest Denver Broncos fan in the entire state of Colorado. Sorry, I will compose myself. I'm here today to honor my brother's memory by speaking up on behalf of all grocery store workers across the state and all of his union sisters and brothers who are essential workers. I never want another family to feel the pain his absence has left us, especially now during the holiday season. Our family doesn't want to hurt Kroger's business, as that hurts the workers too. But we want Kroger to stop hurting workers, like my brother, through their inaction. Kroger continues to put their workers at risk by failing to implement necessary health protocols as stores get even more crowded during the holidays and the virus explodes in our state. Kroger's disregard for its workers put my brother at risk in May, and he and 2 other grocery store union members lost their lives because of it. After almost a year into this pandemic, we have clear guidance from the health authorities, and Kroger knows what procedures to put in place to help keep workers, customers, and our communities safe. This includes requiring everyone who enters the store to wear a mask, monitoring traffic flow in stores to ensure social distancing, keep deep cleaning various times a day, and capping the number of customers in the stores at the same time, even during the holidays. We've seen what this pandemic can do, how it can take lives, put families in debt for hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills, destroy people's bodies so badly they can never work again. Kroger should know better. I am here to implore that Kroger do better. There's far too much at risk, not only for their workers, but for communities across Colorado. While Kroger was quick to call their workers, like my brother, a hero during the first weeks of the pandemic with a fancy video announcing hero pay, the company was just as quick to turn their backs on their own workers and take it away as infection and death rates soar. I stand here in solidarity with UFCW, Local 7, and our friends at Colorado for the Common Good, who are fighting to protect our state's essential workers. King Soopers employees, like my brother Randy, would have done anything to take care of a customer or to brighten their day. My brother was a mentor to his colleagues and always took care of the people that worked with him and for him. Kroger should follow my brother's example. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Nicole, and all of us are so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marlon Johnson, a King Soopers employee. Marlon.
Hi there. Hi, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to talk about a few things. From the time I walk into that building to the time I leave, I don't feel safe in there. Temp checks never happen. They do very rarely. It just depends on really who's working. And we actually have to call for them. They don't call for us for them. We have to find them if we want to get our temp checked. And even still, sometimes they don't do that. So many times, almost every day, it seems like in the bathroom down across from the deli, it's either out of paper towels, out of soap, or both. And I've literally walked out of there feeling dirtier than I did walking into it. Room, bathroom, same thing. No paper towels, no soap in the dispensers. They got rid of their maintenance staff. They have kids pushing carts around, cleaning up after everything. We have guests that come in not wearing masks. I've asked several times what the protocol is, what we're supposed to do. I was actually told by a deli manager that we still have to service them. And that's ridiculous in my opinion. I am appalled at that. We had one employee that tested positive for COVID. I heard the deli manager saying he was instructed not to speak out loud about it to any of us, even when I questioned it. And the employee came back to work and I asked him about it himself, how he felt and what he went through. And he described that to me. But I'm just appalled that there's nothing being talked about or There's nothing protect. I've got two granddaughters. There's times I don't even like going over there because I don't feel like I'm safe to be around them. Sorry. During that time, most of my family was out of work. I kept on working. All that hero pay, all that overtime pay, all that money wasn't just for me and it was for my family, my daughter, her husband, my brother who was out of work. There's times I've gone back to the back stock room to get paper towels myself to replenish those things, and they don't even have them. They don't even have supplies inside the store to stock up. We had to go to the shelves to get paper towels off the shelf that's for sale for the guests in order to have paper towels in there for us to use. Same thing with soap, sanitizer. And the managers and I don't even.
I think Marlon's screen just froze. Marlon, are you there?
Yeah, hello?
Hi.
Okay, my camera just like shifted for a second.
Yeah, you're sideways.
Okay, let's see if is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I don't even know what else to say.
Well, I think you really painted a good picture of what's happening there. And so I think that's really very helpful to all of us to understand what's really happening right there on the floor. So we really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sandy Chavez, a Safeway employee. Sandy?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra Chavez. I'm a file maintenance manager at Safeway in Denver, where I have worked for the last 37 years. At the start of the pandemic, grocery workers were deemed essential workers overnight. While most of the country sheltered in place, we were scared for our health and that of our families. But despite the fears, we always came into work. It was difficult for me. I consistently wore a mask at home so I wouldn't put my son at risk. I stopped seeing my mother except through her window as I dropped off groceries or sometimes a meal at her doorstep. I was not safe at the store, and I knew I was risking bringing the virus home or to anyone I was in contact with. Mask wearing was not enforced or promoted to customers. Lower capacity numbers were not enforced, and I was overworked and stressed. Some days I would get in my car after a long day at work, trying to stay 6 feet away from everyone and sanitizing my office. I would cry on the way home from work. I was so overwhelmed. And while the store gave us appreciation pay compensation at the beginning, the company took it away in June. Even though the virus hadn't ended. In fact, the pandemic had only become worse. In August, I began working for the union daily, visiting the grocery stores and listening to my peers as they explained how things continued to be, despite the fact that many Colorado counties were under severe restrictions because of the increased outbreaks. Since the beginning of the pandemic, they have been stressed and overworked, and their safety has been overlooked. They can't hug their children and they can't visit their parents. Many often don't know if there has been an outbreak in their store or even in their department because management fails to alert the staff so they can properly quarantine. More than anything, I want Safeway and Kroger to know that their employees love what they do, and we've worked so hard to keep the stores running through this difficult time. We want to see our stores to succeed, and we want to see our customers feed their families and enjoy the holidays safely. But we don't want to feel just like a number. We don't want to feel just like a cog in the machine as the store's profits continue to rise. We want to feel appreciated, respected, and cared for. We want our health to be prioritized by making the store as safe as possible. And we want to be valued as employees and compensated for showing up even during these stressful and unsafe times. My message to Safeway is loud and clear. Show us you are a decent company and one that believes in science. There are clear guidelines from health authorities for workplace safety. Please implement them. Our lives literally depend on it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sandy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Maricela Guzman from King Soopers employee. Maricela.
Hi, good morning. My name is Maricela. I worked at King Soopers as a meat manager until October, when I had to stop working in July because I was severely hurt on the job just due to safety issues at the store. And I needed to get a major surgery. My store is in Will County, which is designated as a level red county for coronavirus by the state of Colorado. Will County refuses to abide by the restrictions that are necessary to keep both workers and residents safe. To the county commissioners of Will County, shame on you for putting politics over science. The grocery workers have failed to implement safety protocols that would keep their essential grocery workers and customers safe. Instead of being told by supervisors that our colleagues have COVID or that we need to quarantine because of exposure, we have to rely on gossip to protect our health. For me, that has led to life-changing consequences. In July, when I was throwing boxes in the back room of our store, a job that usually is required by many, not just me, there were not enough employees available that day because we were understaffed. On the day of my accident, the back room was especially disorganized due to the lack of staff to clean up the night before. While getting up to lift boxes on the bottom of my cart to throw them in the baler, I turned and accidentally stepped on the bottom of the U-boat, which is a large cart that's to carry products. I didn't want to fall, so I did what anyone else would do, which is to catch myself. That's when I heard a pop. Because of the way I tensed up and caught myself, I ruptured my ACL and tore my meniscus that folded in half. An injury in my knee, which would require 2 surgeries to fix with a long, painful recovery to make a job at the store more difficult. I was finally able to have surgery in November, and I had to get another run soon, hopefully by January. Since being out of work since October, it's been very difficult for my family since I was the second primary source of income for my parents, my sisters, my nephews, and my grandmother, who recently was diagnosed 2 weeks ago with COVID. She's in the hospital and isn't doing well. Being out of work as the second primary breadwinner for my family at age 25 has been overwhelming and stressful. This season is supposed to be a time of joy instead of being a nightmare. When I was at work, I was worried about bringing the virus home to my family, especially since my sister has asthma and my dad has diabetes. And I was working long hours, and in the beginning of the pandemic, I was not provided PPE at work. Safety protocols were initially implemented, went by the wayside fast, such as quotas, how many customers could be in the store at the same time, social distancing, and cleaning. Contact tracing was a joke. We were never notified about positive cases in my store and the lack of staff to properly sanitize the store. Break areas, even when we heard through the grapevine that one of our coworkers was positive. When I had hazard pay, it made a huge difference for my family. Now I worry about making ends meet for them and being able to work again after my injury. I do love my job at King Soopers. It's what provides me and my family. As long as customers are spaced out, I appreciate that extra business the pandemic has brought in. But King Soopers Kroger success should be our success as well. We should be as safe at work. There's no shared success for us when the company takes away $2 of hour hazard pay that would help us weather the storm is no shared success for us when the workers are treated just like a disposal. I recently read that Kroger sales are almost 11% over last year, yet so many of us are still struggling and getting sick at work. I respectfully ask Kroger to support their employees and customers, ensure our safety, and pay us fairly for the risk we are forced to take in this pandemic. I know I'm not working, but I speak for my fellow coworkers because I don't know how their families are going or what they're going through.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your story, Marcella. We appreciate it. Next, we'll have Reverend Reagan Humber from a pastor at House for All Sinners and Saints.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Reagan Umber, pastor of House for All Sinners and Saints in Denver. We're also a member institution of Coloradans for the Common Good. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of our heroic frontline grocery workers. This past weekend, I went to a Trader Joe's in the Denver area, and I found myself waiting in line to get in, which was the first time in months I'd been asked to wait in line before entering a grocery store. I mean, sure, it's cold, but waiting in line it's a minor inconvenience. It felt good to know that I was being asked to do my part to ensure the health and safety of frontline workers. But then that got me to thinking about all the big grocery stores where I've never been asked to wait in line, as if the pandemic stops at the Safeway or King Super doors. I thought about the grocery store workers and what message that this sends to them, that the convenience to the shopper is worth more than the lives of the workers. This makes me ashamed at our society's choices. It should not be safer to work at a Trader Joe's than at a King Super or Safeway. Now, I understand that Governor Jared Polis has made grocery stores critical businesses, and for that reason, the grocery store chains, they get to decide questions of store capacity in our state. This is contrasted to states like California and New York, which have mandated that grocery stores in counties with higher case rates must limit customers to half the building's capacity as a way to ensure social distancing. However, just because King Super and Safeway can do whatever they want in Colorado, it doesn't mean that they should do whatever they want. In my Christian tradition, St. Paul writes to the Philippians, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves." King Super and Safeway certainly seem to be looking after their own interests, but apparently not the interests of their workers. Therefore, today we call on the leadership of King Supers and Safeway to meet with us, to hear the concerns of others and their workers, and especially to reinstitute hazard pay for all workers. Because if the stores are asking their workers to show up to work in enclosed spaces, especially without capacity limitations, the least that they should do is pay them for the risk that they are incurring to themselves, their families, and to all that they come into contact with in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pastor Reagan. Our next speaker and last is Reverend John Anderson from Trinity Presbyterian Church.
Good morning. I speak today as a member of a community, like all of us, who owe a great debt of gratitude for the grocery workers who feed us each day. The path of every American will take them through a grocery store this week, either personally or through someone else shopping on their behalf. We rely on our grocery store workers in more ways than we could ever fully appreciate. So we stand with these members of our community who assure that we have food on our tables and medicines in our cabinets because their concerns are our concerns. We've heard from those who help us find items in the store or slice our deli meats or check us out or bag our groceries that they're concerned. They're concerned for their safety, for their health, and for their families. And while grocery stores have gotten on top of shortages, they've grown lax with safety and health protocols. So grocery workers are asking for adequate cleaning supplies, daily temperature checks of all employees, notification of when a colleague becomes ill with COVID, adequate staffing on every shift so employees can take sanitation breaks, a limit on the number of customers in the store for carts and baskets to be cleaned, and for mask wearing to be enforced where permissible by law. And we've heard how employees feel when they show up at risk to themselves and their families every day, and they're asked to work harder because employees have called in sick, when their company they work for will double their net earnings in 2020, but their hero pay was removed in May. As we enter the darkest season of this pandemic, as grocery store net earnings will grow 100% this year, while an additional $2 an hour of hero pay will not eliminate the risk of contracting COVID, it will help their families feel more secure as our mothers and fathers go to work each day. We, as a community, believe that restoring hero pay during this next season of the pandemic is the right thing to do. Those of us who belong to the Christian tradition remember during this time of year how Joseph and Mary traveled to Bethlehem just before Mary was to give birth. We recall how there was no place for them to stay in that town, and we note that the one person remembered in the Christmas story is the owner of the home who shared what he had, not what he didn't have. He gave them a stable in which to stay where the Son of God could be born. We're asking Kroger's and Albertsons, Safeways to do what we're not asking them to do what they can't do, but to do what they can do. If the missions of Kroger's is to feed the human spirit, and Albertsons Safeway mission is to help the country live better lives, it's time to feed the spirit and help those who work for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor John. We're going to open this up now to the media, but I just also wanted to mention that Representative Crow had to jump off, and he didn't mention that he wanted to thank all of you on this call for your courage and hard work, and that he will be continuing to fight for your cause in DC. And so for the media, when you are called upon with if you have a question, please identify who it is that you're addressing your question to. Thank you.
And if you could raise your hand to let us know that you have a question.
Hello, this is Noelle Phillips with the Denver Post. And Ms. McAllister, I wanted to know a little bit more about the December 10th decision from OSHA on the King Soopers and that investigation. What was the letter they sent? Could you explain that a little bit more?
Honestly, I don't have the letter in front of me that spells it out in detail. But our experience with OSHA during this entire process, whether it be our retail grocery stores or our meat packing plant, has been disappointing. We haven't heard from OSHA that there are serious violations in any capacity at any of the plants or retail grocery stores that we represent. Just like in the retail stores, the OSHA did not do a proper investigation at the meat plant, which we have had discussions with in the past, but it's just the body is there to protect workers and to make sure they have a safe environment to work in, and they're not doing that.
And hi, Noelle. This is Marcela Salazar from UFCW 7. I'm happy to email you the hazard letter and all of the correspondence between the union and OSHA, and for any other reporter who would like that information as well.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Does anybody else have any questions? Allison.
Hi there. Yeah, Allison Zimmerman from KOAA in Colorado Springs. First of all, thank you all so much for sharing your stories here today. I guess my big question is, we've heard this sentiment here in Southern Colorado from a lot of small business owners about the restrictions that have been placed on their businesses, but we've seen some of these slightly larger outbreaks in grocery stores in our area. So I guess my question for this would probably be for Melissa is, how much of this is on the companies versus the restrictions that are in place for the state? And can you kind of walk me through what some of those discussions have looked like when it comes to implementing and having these restrictions in grocery stores?
Sure. I think a lot of local governments have done a good job of having certain restrictions in place for these grocers to abide by. A big problem that we're having is that the companies themselves are just not enforcing them. Masks is a big one. A lot of times the companies are not enforcing masks for customers that come in the stores. A customer walks in the store and management is alerted that there is a customer without a mask. And a lot of times the employees are forced to confront the customer, and that's just an uncomfortable situation. I know we've all seen that it gets pretty, that confrontation can get a little out of hand. So a lot of it is the employers themselves. However, a lot of them don't have the capacity to do to enforce these mandates. So it would be great if we could get law enforcement or security into these stores, as somebody who's kind of a middle person to regulate this. But social distancing isn't mandated. The percentage capacity of customers allowed into the facilities are not mandated. So it's kind of, I know each county is different. So there are some governments that manage it and that are making recommendations and mandates that are more strict than others, but it is, at the end of the day, it's the company's responsibility to manage it.
Yeah, and have you guys asked for any kind of private security to maybe be in charge of regulating how many people are going into those stores following those precautions?
We've asked. Several of the stores have security that is in the front entranceway. I know the King Supers that I shop in has one, although I've never seen him ask somebody for a mask. So we have asked that, and we do have, we have a grievance procedure through our union, and that's the process that we're taking. So we have several grievances out there to try to push the company to have private security.
We'll be taking a question from Matt Bloom.
Hi there, this is Matt Bloom with KUNC News in Greeley. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I actually have two questions, if that's okay. The first one is either for Ms. McAllister or any of the King Soopers employees. Is there a specific amount of hazard pay that you're requesting? Is it identical to what we saw earlier in the pandemic, or are you looking for, more or less now? Thanks.
When originally the companies had come up with the $2 an hour, we thought that was fair and reasonable. Since then, there has been some bargaining between whether or not it would be a per hour or, a blanket amount of appreciation pay. So it's negotiable. It's not something set in stone that we're specifically asking for. We just want to sit down with the company and actually bargain for appreciation pay for the workers who are making all the money for them.
Yeah. And then Marcella or Sandy or Marlon, have you also seen a change in the way customers are treating employees at the stores? Because I know, especially earlier in the pandemic, there was a lot of, vocal respect and celebration and admiration for the work that you do. And I wonder if you've also seen that change.
Me as a King Soopers employee before I got injured, I saw both. I saw the positives and the negatives. You've had customers thank you for your hard work and dedication, but then you've had customers come in without a mask, and instead of like asking you a question 6 feet apart, they just want to be right close to you. And so you want to like express them and tell them that just because you're not wearing a mask, can you please step 6 feet away? And then they just get angry. So, I mean, it pros and cons to it. Just because Well County isn't enforcing the mask control, they think it's okay because Kroger is abiding by what Well County wants.
Yeah, yes, I agree with Marcella. I think with Safeway, customers were vocal, being appreciative for the workers. But then you had a few that did not want to wear masks or wouldn't social distance. You'd ask them to, just let me know, I'll move out of your way. I have no problem. And with allowing you to get into the aisles. But, you have both. You see both sides. You see the ugly in some people, and then you see the kindness of others. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions? And I do want to let everyone know, all of the reporters, that if you have a question later, sometimes that often happens, you think of something or you need some additional clarification or any other comments or interviews on the record, feel free to send in, actually just, it's a very complicated email, but if you have a pen, UFCW7 at skdknick.com, or you can call me or send me a text 202-567-1163, and we would be happy to answer any additional questions or send any additional documentation. Is there anybody else with any questions? Okay.
Okay, well, we want to thank you again for joining us. There were so many heartfelt stories. We so appreciate your listening and doing whatever you can to help Kroger and Albertsons Safeways to sit down with us and have a meeting. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I add one thing to share before everybody leaves? I just wanted to share one quick personal experience I had with a guest not wearing a mask. When I went up to security to tell them, he looked at me square in the eyes and he said, "What do you want me to do about it?" I just want that to sink in for a second.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, thanks, everybody. This will be the end of our conference today, press conference today.